Happy Saturday, fans and friends and people in the chat and everybody hanging out with us today. Good Saturday morning to all of you. It's been an early Saturday for me. I went for a walk. I've been just sort of out and about already today, but I'm back here at the desk now to chat up comic books with you and talk about a movie I watched last night and just see what's good and what's going on this weekend, and then run through some books I read this week because I've been reading a ton of new comics. I've been catching up on everything. I think I've only got 2 books on my to read list as far as new issues that are coming out month to month. I've only got 2. It's so it's I've really pushed to catch up on everything, but then I've also trimmed way back, so I'm not reading nearly as much and buying nearly as much. So what are you gonna do? We got Miss So first in the chat. Good morning to Miss So. She's got errands to run. Thank you. I love my favorite way to enjoy all the comic community YouTube is to do it when I'm running errands. I plug the headphones in when I'm grocery shopping, or I got it playing there on the console in the car when I'm driving from one place to the next. So yeah, totally down for that. And we got C-Bizzle in the chat. He's saying, good morning. What's going on, C-Biz? I hope your Saturday's going well. We got my man, Brother John, in here too. Happy Saturday to you, Brother John. I don't know if you got any chores going on. I'm looking to clean out the garage a little bit today, maybe reorganize, put away a bunch of books so that everything's back to, working order again around here. But those are my big goals. We got TK. He's saying, rise and shine. It's Devil Dog time, right? He's probably going to get into some gaming with Perry later. He struggles with Perry. I mean, Perry brings the level of skill down. I know you know that, TK. We got my wrench in the chat. We got Legion. What's going on, Mark? How you doing? Happy Saturday. Hope your Saturday is off to a good start, sir. So yeah, I got a little pile of books here, and I honestly can't remember what I've shared here or other shows and things. So I'm going to go through some books. I got a nice list of comics I've been reading lately, and we'll talk about that. And I really want to get into Mission Impossible. So finally, it took me a while, and I know Mark is always on me to see more things in the movie theater, but I finally got around to seeing the latest Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning, which I guess they're calling a part 1, but they seem to have taken the part 1 off. I don't know if they worried that it dissuaded people. And I will freely admit I'm a mega fan of that franchise, and I really do enjoy those movies. I think they're just a real kick in the pants. They're a lot of fun. So me and the ladies were all home last night. Nobody had practice to go to. Dinner was already covered, and so we got a thing of tacos for everybody, and then we just sat there and powered through it. And it is the longest. It's the longest one by far. It's 2 hours and 40 something minutes. So it's a long movie, and that would probably be my chief complaint, is that I think there were a lot of dialogue scenes that kind of dragged. I do think it could have easily been a shorter film and would have been a tighter, better film. But it's hard to say without seeing the second half kind of what it's going to be. The action sequences are always fantastic. Tom Cruise may be one of those best producers who really know what an audience wants from their time. Right. So I think he's really great at crafting a story and a screenplay and a production that fits him well. And within that framework, he's able to execute all the stuff that we want from his movies. So I really I enjoyed it. It was fun. It wouldn't rank near my top because now they've got 7 Mission Impossible movies, and it wouldn't crack the top 3. But now we're sort of, the danger, I think, is we're nearing James Bond levels of are we entering a mid-age of this franchise where it's not functioning as well as it was at its peak? And for me, the peak is right in there with Rogue Nation is probably my favorite, but Ghost Protocol is really, really great. So that's my favorite bit right there. Mission Impossible 3, 4, 5, that's my favorite. 6 and 7, Fallout and Dead Reckoning were good, but not as good as those 3. I could watch 3, 4, and 5 at any point, in any order, at any time, and just be riveted. I think Rogue Nation's my favorite, but it's really hard to pick any one of them because I enjoy them all. We got other friends in the chat going on here. We got my man TW. What's going on, T-Dubs? I hope you're feeling better. He says, when did getting a kick in the pants become a good thing? That's a great. Yeah, the history of that phrase. It was a kick in the pants. That's a good point. Uh, Legion says, I believe they took part one off because that'll give the next a unique name. I think it should, and I totally agree with you on that. I wish they do. I hope they do that. What's up, Roscoe, my man? Hope you're doing well, Roscoe. He says, thankfully, it was fantastic, 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I will say, I wouldn't go as far as to say fantastic, but a lot of fun. I would say it's a lot of fun. Coach Vic, what's going on? Coach Vic says, you guys watch that instead of the Eras tour. My girls do like Taylor, and they do like, but they're getting to the like a little older teen, so they're may not be as pumped on it, as some other kiddos. But no, they didn't ask for that, Coach Vic. They didn't ask for that. So I pushed for Reckoning because we had been waiting to watch it for a while. We downloaded the Paramount app for some soccer that my daughter Charlie wanted to watch for her club team. And they had some good soccer games playing on it. And we kept it knowing that Dead Reckoning would come out. And then we just never got around to it. Legion says, I love the scene where they're turning Grace. And she said, but you don't know me. And Ethan says, what does that even matter? That's another, I will say this to that point, Mark. The dialogue went really well. Even when the scenes felt too long, like a dialogue scene might be 10 minutes and maybe I felt like it could have been 5 or 2. The dialogue was good. The dialogue was still entertaining. I was never like bored. I just could always feel the scene went longer than I felt it needed. I would be near the end of the scene thinking, wow, they really could have wrapped this up already. I wasn't bored with it, but I was just feeling like we should get to the next thing, Terry's in the chat. He says, I did not see the latest Mission Impossible. I want to soon. For me, I know the people that don't like him and can't handle him and don't really want anything to do with his movies, and I get it. I don't necessarily feel the same way that I do about other people that have a passionate they need to cancel this person for whatever. For me, I just enjoy his films, and I think he makes good, entertaining movies, and that's all I'm there for. That's what I'm paying my money for, and I feel like I get that out of him. So for the Mission Impossible series, incredibly consistent. I'm not the insane. I got a couple of friends that are way into Top Gun Maverick. It's like their all-time favorite movie, period. Like there is no better movie. I'm not there. I still like Top Gun 1 better than the sequel, but I can enjoy it. It's still a lot of fun. He consistently knows how to make films that fit him. And I would say it's the same thing people have been giving Keanu Reeves credit for his whole career, is that he's good at picking a product that suits him. It's not just picking a good script or a good story, but can you pick a good script and story that you can do something in, that you could fit into in some manner, right? So I think Keanu has had a really long career and is not like the greatest actor in the world. Often gets made fun of for his sort of like one style of speaking and acting. But he's been incredibly successful because he picks good pieces, Speed, Matrix, whatever. And so I think it's the same for Cruise. Timo Hana, mahalo. Good morning to you. Aloha. I hope things are going well. My man Rod is in the chat. The Rican. What is going on, Rod? I hope you're having a good Saturday morning, reading some good books. Anything good? Anything we should be checking out? Such a solid franchise. I feel Fallout is the strongest. I love the fight in the toilet, in the bathroom in Fallout. Might be the single best fight scene. Like it is so well done. But for me, the movie derails a little when it's the whole like nuclear bomb helicopter chase finale. It didn't work as well for me at the end. It got a little bit over the top. But the parachuting bit was really great. Henry Cavill just obviously great, period. It's something about the Rogue Nation, like who's a good guy, who's a bad guy, and then like the spiral, like chasing and then capturing the villain. Really well done from the beginning where Cruz gets gassed all the way to when they gas. They got something about it just really works. Red Deckening. All right, there you go. Good morning, everybody saying good morning. Beckerman in the chat. Happy Saturday to you, Beckerman. I hope your Saturday's kicking off well. Big Brother John says the Eras tour is actually pretty impressive. Nice. Good to hear it. I do need to check it out. He's a Ghost Protocol fan. I do think that's a great one. I think the climbing of the Burj Khalifa is freaking amazing and may be the single best stunt piece that they've done. is the climbing of the Burj Khalifa for several reasons. Number one, it is integral to the plot. Like it fits perfectly into the plot that they're doing. So you need that stunt, and it's not something you see coming. It happens by sort of happenstance, and when it occurs, the necessity of like coming up with a quick adaptation to the plan, so good. And then the way they photograph it, the way they keep upping the ante with the glove and the broken glass, and then the rope that's not long enough, and all these things. It is for me the best stunt they've ever done. Because sometimes the other stunts, including the one in Dead Reckoning, feel unnecessary. Like we just we have a stunt we really want, so we're gonna like shove it into the movie and make it work. But the one in Ghost Protocol is vital to the plot. It works really, really well on several levels. The weakest parts of the film are still quality. Yeah, exactly. Good way to say it. Best part of watching Maverick at the end, when the credits roll, a bald eagle lands on your shoulder and actually stands tall. Hilarious. What's going on? Seawood 19, my man. He's been doing a lot of great content. He's I hesitate, Carson, to say he's back because he never really went anywhere, but he's been incredibly busy, and now he's dropping more content. He's been hanging out with my friends, guys like JB, guys like Jason from Comics Misexplained, guys like Drew Manchu. So some OG, I would say era 2 community members, guys that I really know well and met in person, great people. So if you are looking for those guys, they did a bunch of X-Men related content recently over on on Seawood's channel. So it's good to see you guys, the modern men, back together again. And my dad, what's up, Dad? Happy Saturday, Dad. Hope your Saturday's going well. I don't know what you're up to today. We don't have any sports going on. Kate has a pretty bad, moderate ankle sprain. We saw the doctor yesterday, and we're just trying to take it easy. She doesn't have any games for volleyball for like 3 weeks. So this is rehab time. She's doing her stretches and, trying to articulate as best she can with her foot. She's got crutches, but she doesn't exactly need them. It seems like she can walk fine. It's whenever she gets the lateral movement, right? That's going to stress that foot. She had gone up to the net, and when she came down, her teammate on the other side of the net at practice, their foot stuck under the net, and Kate landed on it. And that's how you roll your ankle. That's how you do that. And I don't envy that anyone. It's the first kind of injury Kate's ever had playing sports, like significantly. So, she's a little tentative with it, but I think we've seen that she, other than some discoloration on the bottom of the foot, I think she's back to normal. She's getting there quickly. So she's skipping a lot of practices, but we're still exercising, getting her back to where she was. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that, man. So let me go through let's do the A-OK. I jumped on to, let's see, whose show was I on this last week? Oh, Stu, the Dr. Doom's fan club. I was on Stu's channel this week, and I had gotten an A-OK, and I said, hey guys, can I open this if Lady Fantastic shows up in the chat? And she did. And here it is, Avengers issue 15. It has a hilarious like paid stamp on the back. And what I think happened when the shop was selling these is that they stamped books on the back cover when they were paid. Stamp them, boom, 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 boom. And then when they stacked the books, the stamp would bleed onto the front cover. So you got a little bit of a bleed, and it kind of says paid right there on Captain America's shield. And on the back cover, if you, I'll pull up the, if I can get it, I'll pull up the backing board, and you might be able to see what the stamp looks like. But I like those. I like this, like the LCS stamps that they would use back in the day. So that kind of stuff I think cracks me up. The fact that somebody was like, yeah, that's the way to do it. So there it is. You can kind of see there was like this big old paid, I guess it's upside down, stamp right there. It is a vibrant copy. I think the colors are really nice. So huge shout out to Lady Fantastic for doing that and putting me within one. I'm in striking distance. I got one more book from the first 20 issues of Avengers to grab. I may extend it a little further. I have a few issues in the 20s. I think I have 21 and 25. 25 is, I think, that Doom cover that's really great. I may go a little further eventually. But for now, it was always the first 20 that was kind of my goal. And now I'm one away, and I'm going to get it. I think I'm MegaCon or WonderCon in Anaheim. I'm going to go looking for it if I don't find something sooner. I got feelers out in the community. So if you find a copy of Avengers 3 out there, hit me up, send me the link, and let me see so I can make sure it's the one to buy. I also got a back issue this week, another Avengers book, issue 221. For those that don't know the significance, it's a storyline where they're choosing a new team for the Avengers, and I just think this cover is hilarious because it's there is the Invisible Woman right there, drawn perfectly, captured her essence, the Invisible Woman right there. So I always found this cover very funny. It just gives me the giggles every time I saw it. And they had 2 copies. This one has the worst wrap because you can see some of the white on the spine, but I think the colors were nicer. The corners were sharper. And so I was like, yeah, I'm fine with a mismatched wrap if it's even and just over a little bit. So this looked great to me. So yeah, I got a couple of good Avengers books. Yeah, definitely looks like her, right? What's up, Kevin? Entropy in Comics. Good morning to you, Kev. I feel like I've been watching a ton of late night shows with Kev jumping into the community at night. So it's good to see Kevin and talk about knowledge, man. He is an indie comic book knowledge guy. He knows so much. And Kev, I read 2 new indies this week, and I'll get to those in just a sec here. But I'm curious your thoughts. Tom King's got a new book called Helen of Wind something. I can't remember it's got a long title, Helen of something. And I read that one, and then I read Rick Remender's new book, Napalm Lullaby. So those are the 2 indies I read this week. A lot of number 1s come in the last few weeks. So I'm curious if you read any. We got Air Spider. What is going on? He says the disconnect between collectors and the dealers that sell collectibles has always been that way. I'll just leave a big blue stamp right here. It's fair. I was just talking about this guy. What's up, Stu? We weren't talking about this Stu, although sometimes that's really good too. We were talking about this Stu. Good to see you, sir. Happy Saturday. Station to you. And there it is. Helen of Windhorn. Yes. Thank you. So I read that new Tom King one, which has the same artist, Bilquist Evely, who did his Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow series that I know is getting adapted into a movie. So if you liked that series, if you enjoyed Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which I did, this might be for you. And that's why I picked it up, the combination. I've heard that Helen didn't get, heard about, Napalm. I haven't read it. Okay, there you go. So there you go. Those are the 2 that I picked up, or at least I did not pick them up. Those are the 2 I read because I really do like those writers. And I'm curious to see whenever they're creating something new. Sometimes I get distracted and I miss out. Like when Remender did his recent fantasy series, I had somehow missed out on it and I've had to catch up sort of digitally. I don't want to do that. So this is I texted my man White Whale Comics after I read Napalm Lullaby, and I'm a big Remender fan. This might be my least favorite thing he has ever written that I've read, and I've read a fair amount. This issue 1 is awful. Like, it is a mess. It's confusing. I don't even know what character I'm supposed to follow because you think you know who they are, and then a couple pages go by and then they get killed, and then you're following another character, and then it's a mess, and it's so poorly laid out. Like, I'm glad that I'm not the only one, or maybe TW and I are just haters. I really did feel like Napalm Lullaby was disastrous, and I have zero interest in reading more. If the trade comes out and I hear nothing but great things from people saying it got so much better, or now it makes sense, or it's part of a total, or whatever, maybe I'll finally go back and check it out. But I have zero interest in buying another issue of this. Like, it is so confusing. I'm not even really saying I'm trade waiting. I'm saying it's going to take a lot to convince me to go back. Right. Sacrificers is phenomenal. Thank you for reminding me of the name of his fantasy series. And I think they've only done 6 issues and now they're on a break. Sacrificers by Rick Remender is superb. And I'm sorry I missed the hype train for it when it dropped in the fall. But I'm caught up to where they took their break, and it is a great series. Totally agree. Finally been able to read a few books last night. I'm about 3 weeks behind. Working a lot. Award season, yes, absolutely. You're running the rigging a lot these days, yeah. So for me, those were the two indies I read this week. Napalm Lullaby, which I strongly disliked, and if somebody loved it, I need somebody to explain to me why I what I missed, because maybe I was too distracted when I read it. The other one was Helen of Windhorn, and it follows. I can't even explain Napalm Lullaby, so don't expect it. Helen of Windhorn follows two timelines. You have an old woman in sort of her retirement home being interviewed by a nonfiction novelist, I guess, who wants to tell the story of when this old woman was working as a governess and taking care of an odd young girl whose father had recently died. And her father was a very accomplished writer with some very unusual fantasy Conan-esque stories. And when this little girl and the governess have to go back to the estate, the wealthy estate that her grandfather owns, to live, strange and unusual things begin happening. So that's the premise of Helen of Windhorn. I will say it's not a great first issue. It is definitely a little scattered, a little simplistic. I don't think the characters really have depth at this first issue, so it didn't wow me. Maybe it'll become something great, and I'll probably keep up with it and try to keep reading issues, because I certainly like Bilquis Evely's art style. But in the end, I would probably give it a kind of lower score, just because as much as I like the art and the premise I just didn't feel a ton of interest in these characters, because they felt like caricatures. You know, she's the drunk, spoiled girl. She's the stern governess. Grandpa's the odd recluse. Like everything felt very like cliched. Nothing felt really like creative. But the art is. Bilquis Evely is great, and it is a gorgeous book. Kingy, too much storytelling, not enough showing. That's a good way to say it, Taylor, for sure. I'm sure when Feral, Uncanny Valley, and New Canto come out, that list will change his favorites. There you go. There you go. For him, he says Indies Transformers universe is the second favorite. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World and What's the Furthest Place from Here are his number ones. There you go. And TMNT. There you go. So yeah, I those have been the two new indies. I don't know that I would highly recommend Windhorn, but if you like Bilquis Evely's art, I would say then that's for you. The other indie I did, of course, read. Kevin mentioned Transformers. I'm staying up on all the Energon stuff, and I will say the last couple of Transformers issues have been my favorites so far. I was not, and I'm still kind of not on the Energon universe hype train. I can enjoy them, and they're fine, fun entertainment, but I'm not like invested in these, or like, oh my gosh, this is just the best thing. I mean, they are light entertainment, like a Fast and the Furious movie. Not necessarily something I'm going to rewatch and dive into the minutia of, but for one-time reading, fine, like it worked, you know. And in that way, I was entertained. And it's the same with a lot of that stuff. I think Cobra Commander falls into that same category. Duke has been really good and then really weak, so it's been a little bit hit or miss. And then the other one is the Void Rivals, which I did read the 7th issue that just came out for Void Rivals, and it was decent. It was solid. It felt like a catch-up issue, but it was good. So I'm keeping up on all that stuff, because I just know that it's like everybody's talking about it, and I want to be able to join the discussion. You know, we got my man Ruben Guzman, and Ruben sent me something so cool. And now I got to figure out where I put it, Ruben. Oh, I know where it is. It's right here. That's the guy, Ruby G, right there. Look at that. He drew that card, gang. His inspiration, of course, I put it right here, Ruben, so that it's always going to be with this book. They will be together forever. My man Ruby G in the chat. What's going on, Ruben? Happy Saturday to you, my friend. We got Scotty Vaughn in the chat. What's up, Scotty? And we got Steve White in the chat. What's going on, Steve White? Everybody is. I think for most people, it's the best series of books going right now. And I know a ton of people that had Transformers as their favorite book of 2023. Um, so I totally get it. I know people that are absolutely wrapped up in it. Read Duke and Cobra Commander last night. There you go. Timeless Ruby. There he is, man. Absolutely. Ruby G is on he's on self-destruct. Watch out. Be careful. Ruby G is going to detonate. So those are the indies that I read. I don't think there were any other indies. Let's see, anything else from the indies? I keep my little notes here because I got to remember a lot of the digital reads. I have to remind myself, oh yeah, you got to go back and read that one. You didn't grab the issues of it. I am reading Avengers Twilight finally. There it is. I'm only 2 issues of 4 in. That's the only 2 issues I've got left to read as far as new comics. I've got to read issues 3 and 4 of Avengers Twilight. I was waiting until there were a few of those before I really, dove into it. Sorry. And I would say issues 1 and 2 are very entertaining. I think it'll make a great collected edition, hardcover, whatever, when it's all done. Very entertaining, alternate future possibility for Marvel. I like some of the iterations of characters that we're getting. I know that Kamala Khan's going to be in the next issue 3 that I haven't read yet, and issue 4 just dropped this last week. The Cap is obviously the guy. He's the main focus, but it's been great. It's been really good. So I've been enjoying that. What else is going on at Marvel? I'm obviously caught up on Wolverine, incredibly violent, lots of good violence going on there. Holy Rollers is surprisingly good. Beneath the Trees. So I've been unable to snag a single issue of Beneath the Trees, so I'm just waiting to read it as a trade, knowing that the story is going to basically wrap here at the beginning of this calendar year, and I'll snag a trade, in summer, and then be able to rank it with the other books from 2024. At the end of this calendar year. I've put off on even spoiling. I don't know anything about it. I'm really waiting to read it as a whole trade. I missed out on issues 1 and 2 completely and just decided, it's fine. I'll wait. I'll read the whole thing together. But I do hear phenomenal things about that. So yeah, Wolverine issues 44 and 45, really, really good. If you're a Wolverine fan, it's pretty much everything you could want from it. It's very graphic, very violent, and just slash them up, man. Cut them up. We got Ian's in the chat. What's going on? Tacoma Comics in the chat. My brother, how you doing? In fact, he knows I got a bunch of these recently. I know he is a big Hans fan, so I got to file my new Storm Stephanie Hans books that I got last week. I got a whole slew of these, great prices. Just got them super cheap. Because I've never really collected that run. So there you go, sir. He knows what's up. Sleepy Reader Damien's in the chat. What's going on, Damien? Hope your Saturday is kicking off well, my friend. And let's see. I did snag Fall the House of X, this awesome Colossus cover. That's a series that's been a nice roller coaster ride. I'm scared of where it can go, and I don't know that I'm ready to think too heavily about what's coming next because I'm still very tentative about where the future of X-Men books is going to go. I just hope it's going to be great. I just hope it'll be something special. So I read that. That was wonderful. Ultimate Black Panther 2. My shop made the mistake of selling this 1 in 25 for cover price, and I was the guy who made out on that. So I got a really nice ratio variant for cover price. This is the Storm cover because she actually appears. You can see her in this issue, but I don't think she speaks. So I think we still have one more issue. They're really teasing out Aurora and what she's going to mean for this. Las Cruces, what's going on? Hope New Mexico isn't too windy. We had some crazy winds through here the last few days, so maybe that weather is coming your way. Taylor says, let me know when X is done falling already. It should be, I think, June and July, I think, is the relaunch, Taylor. And I don't know if you've seen the videos and things they've been dropping, but they have announced there will be 3 new X-Men titles. And I don't want to make it sound like that's all that they're doing. It is literally three comics with the title X-Men. There is Uncanny X-Men, regular, just plain old X-Men, and then Exceptional X-Men. So there will be 3 X-Men titles. Let's see. Uncanny is Gail Simone, and Jed MacKay is on the regular X-Men, I think. And then Exceptional X-Men is going to be Eve Ewing, not Al Ewing. No relation to Al Ewing. This is Eve Ewing, who apparently did a Black Panther run that was really good recently. So those are the 3 main titles. And then there will be 6 ancillary sort of solo titles. I don't want to say solo because 2 of them are team books, but that follow like a month later. That's going to be X-Force and X-Factor are the 2 team books. And then if C-Bizzle, I know he's pumped on it. If he can help me remember the other 4. I know that Storm's got one. Phoenix has got one. Is there a Sentinels one? Something? I can't remember what the other 2 are. But yeah, there are 9 of them coming this summer total. Wish they could come in a little softer and build it up. Oh, NYX. There it is. That's the one I'm forgetting. There's an NYX. And is there a Sentinels one, C-Bizzle? I think there is. Las Cruces, build yourself a wind fort for all the comic book wins. There you go. The wind was terrible yesterday, so there you go. We're sending our weather your way. Watch out for it. Watch out. Oh, it's Wolverine and not Sentinel. Sorry. Of course they're going to have a wolf. There are 2 Wolverine books. There you go. NYX and Wolverine. So there you go. Be careful. Eve did an Ironheart run, also a great writer. Okay. So my comment was, it may just be that I have not read the books that these 3 writers have been writing, but my knowledge of Gail Simone, Jed MacKay, and Eve Ewing is borderline 0, like borderline 0. I've read a little of Gail Simone's Batgirl and barely any of her Birds of Prey. I don't believe I've read anything by Eve Ewing. And I think I probably, if I looked through Jed MacKay's stuff, I may have read a little, but I really have read almost nothing from any of them. So my concern as a comic book fan is looking at all of these titles and seeing what I would argue as not the highest level tier talent concerns me. Now, other people are telling me, no, Gail Simone is huge talent. She's big name. She's been doing big stuff at DC. She's going to crush this team book. And that psychs me up because I'm like, okay, good. Because I'm speaking from a place of unfamiliarity completely. I'm not speaking of any way of like, oh, I've read all her stuff and I don't like it. I'm speaking from I'm a noob on this stuff. I never read any. I know she did a big Birds of Prey run. Never read any of it. So for me, I'm just coming from a place of got no clue what's going on here, and it concerns me. That worries me a little bit. Got my man Raging Cajun JD. What are you doing this weekend, man? Should we meet up? Can we meet up? Can we hit a comic shop? Can I give you your Star Wars banner? What are you doing this weekend? Drop me a line, man. Pick up Gail Simone's Clean Room trade. Give you a little good flavor. Gail is huge talent, big name. Okay. I mean, I had heard of her, but I like to think of myself as moderately well read, but of course we can't read everything. I just feel like I haven't read any of her stuff. So I'm very out of the loop on who she is. Do they have any top tier talent writing at the moment? Oh, TW, you cut me to the core, my friend. You cut me to the core. I would argue yes, but obviously I like Al Ewing a lot, and he's been writing. He still is finishing his X stuff. I thought he is amazing, but I understand what you're saying. And Chip Zdarsky just finished an amazing Daredevil run, and obviously now he's doing Twilight. So there are fewer of them. I will agree. There are fewer of them. Gail hasn't worked at DC in years, to my knowledge. She was big like a decade ago. And that's the stuff that I know of. I don't know since then. So for me, it's a little troubling. What? Sorry, I missed a super chat. My man Toby dropping $2, $2 chat. Let me throw up a little clip here for you, my man. Let's see what we got for you. How about the Lion? Thanks, Toby. That was very nice of you, my man. I appreciate that. He's doing wife time at Disneyland all weekend. Oh, too bad. All right. Well, you hit me up at some point. We got to go. We got to go hit, TNT or something. We got to go to the hideout. I don't know. At some point, I owe you a hangout. So those are the big Marvel books, I think. Let's see. Anything else Marvel wise? I think that's it. And I did not have any DC books the last week or two. I had already read Poison Ivy. I had discussed I like the direction they're going for this new Poison Ivy arc. And Birds of Prey was great. It finished the last arc, and now we're starting the new arc. The artwork is great in Birds of Prey. So those are my two big DC books right now. I know Nightwing's coming to an end. I'm very sad about that. But I guess it just opens up another spot on my pull list where I can still stay in that like 7-8 books a month range as far as what's on my pull list, and not necessarily go over, but I can test drive some of these other X books if they've got some good variants or things like that. So I'm happy that it's going to end on its own terms. I hope that Tom Taylor feels like he's at least able to finish telling the story with, Dick Grayson that he really wants to tell. So that I'm hopeful that that's where it ends out. Let's see, what else did I get recently? Oh, I mentioned, I think I shared this one last time. I did snag this. And then Robert Galvin, if you're watching, I know you wanted to know, I paid $20 for this one. I don't know where this is going these days, but the seller was filling a box, and he's like, he had it for 50, but I was like, no, I don't want it for that. And then he's like, I'll throw it in for 20, and he did, and I took it. So I was happy for that. He wanted to know what I paid on that one. And then that box also included that awesome Green Lantern cover that you gotta love, and that astonishing X-Men variant, and then this Neil Adams signed book, gorgeous Civil War II Neil Adams cover. It's great. Love it, love it, love it. So those are things I'm filing today. Try to get rid of those things, pack things away, clean it up. Did they wrap up the Heartless story? I think that's wrapping up now. That's the one they're finishing right now. It's been sort of scattered across other storylines, which is the frustration, I think, of the storytelling for some fans, is that it's like, tell that story, end it, tell the next story. But it seems to be like fragmented across the Taylor run. Let's talk Mission Impossible, folks. Here's what I wanted to talk about for Mission Impossible. What I thought of at the end of watching the 7th and now an 8th on the way Mission Impossible movie was, I was thinking, where would I rank Mission Impossible when it comes to film franchises? And then I instantly was like, oh, it doesn't really rank because of all the franchises that exist out there. Because I started researching, the longest running franchises with the most movies, blah, 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 blah. And I realized that we use this term franchise unfairly. And here's what I mean by that. James Bond comes up way near the top of the list. Another list had Dracula way near the top. And I feel like they're not using the word franchise correctly. What they mean to say is movies with the same character. And I don't think that qualifies. For me, every time they get a new Bond, it's a reboot. It starts a new franchise. So you could call the James Bond, Sean Connery era a franchise. But when Roger Moore steps in, it's not a continuation of the story. It's a reboot. And now you've got a whole new story happening. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody. And for me, Dracula is the same way. Unless they're all the same actor playing Dracula, it's not a franchise. I would call those reboots, and that you can reboot 1,000 times. There's a ton of them. So some of these lists that I was looking at, I was getting a little perturbed because I was like, that's not a franchise. Like Fast and the Furious, that's a franchise. For me, it has to be one continuing story. If you change the actor, maybe that works. Like you can change Rhodey in MCU, but you're not restarting the story. James Bond is a reboot. Every time you get a new Bond, it's a reboot. Every time you get a new Dracula, it's not a continuation, right? I don't know. What would you think? I would say it needs to be a continuous story. No matter if the actor changes. It's like the original 4 Batman films. Okay, that's a fair example. I would argue that, yes, you could say, because certain actors do continue to be in all four of those. Like the commissioner, right, is the same guy in all four. The butler is the same in all four. So there is a continuation there. I would agree with that. But then the second you get to the Nolan Batman, it's a reboot, right? It's a new Batman, right? So for me, like the Bond films don't qualify as a franchise as a whole, but you could segment out the Connery years and the Roger Moore years and whatever, the Dalton 2 movies, and call them in their own right. But I feel like the second you get a new Bond, it's a reboot and it starts a whole process. I don't know. It's tricky. Sometimes they have the same actors, like the guy who plays Q is in a lot of those Bond films, but sometimes they feel like reboots to me. I don't know. Like when Daniel Craig came in, that was a hard reboot, in my opinion. That was a very different franchise that started right there. I don't know. Will you get the crossovers? Marvel has Blood Hunt, DC has Absolute Power. I'm not interested in either of those events. I plan on skipping most of those events, but that's just me. Marcus is in the chat. What's going on? Marcus, good to see you, my man. We're talking film franchises and how you delineate between something like Dracula and something like Bond and then something like the MCU or Batman films. How do you distinguish between them so that they're not all competing against each other when you want to list your favorite franchises? This is what I was coming up against. And this is a great comment we got. Oh, sorry, I clicked on something. Opened up a Firefox tab. That's not what I was doing. Got my man Perry in the chat. What's going on, Perry? Sleepy Reader says Bond is tricky because some of the supporting characters do continue. Money, Penny, and Q, obviously, are being two of the most popular ones. So you could argue that it's the same Bond story from Connery through to when Craig took over from Brosnan. Sorry. I don't know. So it's tricky. So anyways, a lot of these websites were listing the best, longest running franchises. And obviously things like Star Wars and Star Trek would be higher on those lists, right? Because they do have a continuing story from, Star Trek, the movie, all the way through to until the official reboot with Chris Pine, right? Through the Next Generation films. There's a franchise, right? And Star Wars, it technically hasn't done any kind of a reboot. So all of their films would fit together as a franchise, right? And then Rocky from the first one all the way through the Creed films is quite a significant franchise. So I was just looking I got to pondering this because I'm looking at Mission Impossible now with 7 movies going on 8. The same actor all the way through producing it, all the way through the same vision, kind of all the way through. I was trying to think, okay, how would I rank it with some other franchises? So it stirred me thinking. And then when I researched some other franchises, I thought like, wow, we're really stretching the term franchise. When I saw including things like Dracula and Halloween has had reboots, right? So like, do you count all of the Michael Myers films, or are you able to say like, no, this is the reboot point, this is a separate, that kind of thing? Ghostbusters, yeah, Coach Vic. I think Ghostbusters don't have a reboot unless you count the all-female Ghostbusters movie. I have not seen that one. I don't know if that is a reboot, a sidequel, or a sequel, or a part of the chronology. It's interesting. Terminator's an interesting one, right? I think it's supposed to be one continuous timeline, right? RoboCop has had reboots. It's not the same, right? The original 3, I think it was, right, with Peter Weller, and then reboots since then. Sorry, my allergies are getting me a little funky this morning. We've got 4 Matrix films, I think. Yeah. 3 Lord of the Rings plus 3 Hobbits, 6 films. Alien, Predator, right? And Alien and Predator have been consistent. They haven't had any reboots. It's just been one long thing, right? Terminator had time travel, and timelines are now irrelevant. That's fair. This is actually true. It's a continuous soft restart. What does that even mean? We're making up words now. Carlito's making up words. I don't even know. I'm glad Damien's with me on this, because when I was looking at these franchises and franchises with the most movies kind of things, I felt this way. I felt like Dracula doesn't count. Dracula doesn't count. It's not a franchise. You know what Coppola did, right, versus Bela Lugosi, very different. It's not one continuous story, right? There's no continuity. This was a great one that I was looking at. And I think it's tricky. Obviously, the original, what was it, 6 films? Yes. And the structure of them is very interesting because with those original ones, you could plug yourself in almost anywhere and watch in a loop because they loop back around and connect to each other, right? But the new Planet of the Apes movies are not connected to that. They're a separate reboot series, right? And of course, Tim Burton's horrible one-off is separate from all those. So I think there's several different franchises in there, right? Get out of here. This guy. Get out of here. There are only 3 films. I'm worse than you, Carlito. There's only one in mine. I just like the first one. I don't need any of the other movies in that series. I don't want, I should say, any of the other movies in that series. Just get them all, take them all away. So this list was the longest running franchises. And it says, obviously, MCU has 26 movies. Balboa obviously has an incredible, from years, a length of years that they're covering. The X-Men movies, I had not thought through, like, well, the Deadpool trilogy and the original X-Men films, and then the prequel X-Men films that then tied around into the X-Men film. Not a very great franchise, but definitely a franchise. Fast and the Furious, we mentioned earlier, Star Wars, Star Trek, Harry Potter, 7-film franchise. So that's a franchise with 7 movies, that goes pretty far. Now, sorry, I missed it. This one right here is a great point. Timo Hana highlighting that a lot of the biggest franchises are horror, right? Your Nightmare on Elm Streets, your Friday the 13th, your Halloweens. A lot of the biggest franchises tend to be horror. And that's most common as far as I know. And they last the longest before the inevitable relaunch, reboot kind of thing. And Scream might be my favorite of those just because I think the consistency level stays higher versus, Nightmare or Friday, which kind of ride a roller coaster where you get like a great one and then just an absolute stinker. Pirates of the Caribbean, what are they on now? 5? I think they've done 5. Godfather, I mean, obviously is a high quality series. Would you call it a franchise? That's interesting. The retroactive dragging of old Marvel projects into the MCU. I mean, it works until it doesn't, right? The Bourne films, and they have their side Bourne Legacy film, which I actually kind of liked. Bourne Legacy with Jeremy Renner. It was not a bad movie. I wish it had been more about what's his name at the beginning. Oscar Isaac's bit at the beginning was fantastic. It was the best part of the movie for me. It was Oscar Isaac. He really killed it. this guy, Spider's trolling me. It's perfect. I find it painful when franchises are rebooted. All that investment I put into the old series undone. I mean, I get that. I get that for sure. I know there was a part of me feeling that way about Star Trek when Chris Pine's era kind of came in and the reboot. I enjoyed the first Pine film, but I had to, separate it in my mind a little bit. I actually like the Marky Mark POTA movie, but I'm in the minority. That ending, I wish Burton. Oh, Planet of the Apes. I wish Burton had gotten a follow. No, nobody wishes for that. Come on, don't be doing that. There are only 2 House Party movies as far as I'm concerned. So I would count the 2 films as separate. Yeah, I think they did intentionally make 2 films, 2 releases, the whole thing. But I would also count the Fantastic Beast films as part of that franchise. It's one continuous universe. There's no disconnect, right? The stories all are layered together. So you don't need to count it as a separate thing. It's one franchise. That Harry Potter franchise, right, would count those as well. Now, do you guys think that Pirates of the Caribbean, World of Tomorrow and Jungle Cruise all exist in the same universe? That's hilarious, and I love that. I'm in. Sleepy, just compartmentalize. That's what I do. I love all the Bourne films, but wish Legacy had an adjacent series, not directly tied. That's fair. Franchise equals any multiple movies that also sells t-shirts in Hot Topic. Fair, fair. I'm only on the second Rocky, so I hope those all keep the same storyline. They do. They have yet to reboot Rocky. So they had the original, I think, 6 Rocky films, because it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Rocky Balboa, and then Rocky, something like that. I think there were 6, 4, 5. I think it was 6, and then have they done 3 Creed films now? I think so. What is that? 9 movies in that universe. How many did they end up with, Marcus? I think it was just 3, right? Toby's back again. Do you know what the Ringo Awards are? Those are the awards for comic book writing, inking, lettering, right? Then they usually do those in and around September area. And I want to say there was something when I was at the Baltimore Comic-Con where it seemed like they were announcing the nominees or the winners in that time frame. But wait, that was another chat. Let me throw something up here. What do we got? We got fire. That's my best impression of White Whale Comics there at the end. That's my White Whale Comics filter. Thanks, Toby. He's Rocky, still sad, Italian, and from Philadelphia, so same story. There you go. That's consistency, right, across all of those. Let's look at this other one. They mentioned obviously Fast and the Furious, Connery, and the Bond films. Mission Impossible gets mentioned here. Ooh, Jurassic Park. I forgot to mention Jurassic Park. So what did they have? The original 4 films, and then the 3. How many of the world films did they have? 3 or 4. So that's one big franchise. We mentioned Trek. Okay, keep going. Star Wars, we mentioned. Indiana Jones, there's a franchise that we haven't mentioned yet. Indiana Jones. What are they on? 5, 6? I can't remember. I have not seen the new one. Anybody like the new one? Concerning. Friday the 13th has 12 films according to this website. Star Wars at that point had 12 films. I'm sure they've got more now. Halloween had 13. X-Men has 13 films. They must have really gone all the way with the Deadpool inclusion. You can't count all the new Star Trek. This is a bad list. I already don't like it. Land Before Time. Oh my gosh, how did I not know Land Before Time had 13 movies? Nope, 14. 14 Land Before Time movies? That's a lot of animated movies. I don't know that I'm ready. Jurassic Park 3 slaps. It's the worst movie, Perry. Jurassic Park 3 is one of my all-time least favorite movies. It's just so bad. I struggle to even watch it from a place of like I can laugh at how bad it is. Like from a campy, which I don't like camp, but I struggle to even laugh at it from that place. Téa Leoni and William H. Macy as parents whose kid is lost on the island is so horrible. It's so bad. That movie, and I know Perry knows that I feel this way. I just can't handle it. Yeah, there's several scary movies. The new one was fine, 6.0. All right, if you say so. What about franchise crossovers? Is that the death knell for both franchises, like Predator versus Aliens, Jason versus Freddy, right? Do you include it in both, though, right? As long as it fits the continuity for both, it should be allowed into both categories, right? There are lots of psycho movies. This is true. Horror is the genre. That new Indiana Jones was surprisingly awesome. Okay. I have not seen it, but I should. There's only one stretch of Nightmare on Elm Street films. They're all the same. But didn't they try to relaunch it with what's his name? The guy who was in The Watchmen, who played Rorschach. I thought they tried to relaunch the Nightmare films at one point. 14 installments really implies time definitely starts now. Fallen Kingdom is the worst. Okay, because I haven't seen it. I didn't love the Jurassic World 1, so I stopped watching all the Jurassic Worlds. I felt like at that point, the relaunch was not for me. It was too goofy. I think the original had some really interesting things to say about science and scientists, and Jeff Goldblum is so phenomenal, and the way they utilize all those actors. The original is perfection, and nothing ever comes close to it. Nothing else has even scratched the surface of those. But it is a franchise for sure. Maguire, Garfield, and Holland Spider-Man movies now retconned into one franchise. That's a phenomenal metaphysical question that I think only you can answer for yourself. They seem to be implying yes as a unit. And then wouldn't that make them all part of the MCU? Take that a step further. Has everyone rewatched the Cinderella trilogy? There's a Cinderella trilogy. Okay, are these like direct-to-video Disney kind of things? I don't know. Aggressively, I'm with you. I enjoyed the story and most all. The final indie definitely better than Crystal Skull. But I mean, that's a low bar. You can like trip and fall over that bar. That's easy. Crystal Skull is so bad they came up with the concept of nuking the fridge directly because of how bad it was. Starship Troopers has 5 movies and a series. Oh my goodness. Yes, Jackie Earle Haley. That's the actor. Thank you, Las Cruces. That they tried to use as a new Nightmare on Elm Street, right? I feel like Haley was cast great, but the writing and supporting cast was garbage. Shop is in the chat. I gotta bring him in. Where's John Doom for my man Shop? Where you at? Shop is in the chat. Good to see you, my buddy. He says, say what's up, the CBF fight between flights. Enjoy your weekend and the weeks ahead. You too, sir. Thank you. Happy Saturday, my man. Let's see. Oop, the chat jumped on me. I feel like Haley. We did that one already. Wow, no idea there were so many Starship Troopers. Mind blown. So good. The Riddick franchise. So Perry, you'll dig this, and a lot of you film nerds will dig this. When Pitch Black came out, that movie was like nobody had heard of Vin Diesel yet. That movie was not anything. And the man who wrote and directed that, and I'm struggling to remember his name right now, came to my film class and brought a print of it before the movie came out. So I got to see Pitch Black. It's called Pitch Black, right? Yeah. Did I screw that up? Before it even came out, and the director came out after, and he spoke with us, answered questions about how hard it was to get it made and how the budget was incredibly tiny and they were just struggling to make this kind of claustrophobic space drama action thing work. And it was cool. It was really cool. So I have a lot of love for the Riddick films for that reason. And I think I've still owned a refund. There you go. Facts. Let's see here. Yeah, other people in the chat. Scooby-Doo. You could make an argument, I guess. Toichi has 26 movies in a TV series. Starship Troopers is the original book was being earnest about wanting people to serve before voting, and then the movie did the same story, but with a mocking voice, right? He was trying to mock fascism. That was the goal of Paul Verhoeven's film, because he thought the book was satirical. Growing up in Eastern Europe, like Verhoeven did, he felt a need to mock the fascist overtones of the book. So he made this sort of campy, satirical look at it because he wanted to highlight the ridiculousness of this. And the problem is some people don't realize that he's making a joke. That's concerning. It does get silly. David Toohey, thank you, gang. Yes. So yeah, he came to my school and he was awesome. He was really cool. Really a great character design for him, for this planet and the aliens and the planet. Yeah, really cool. Fifth Element is a phenomenal movie. Great movie. Helldivers 2 pulls tremendously from Starship Troopers, and fascism is fun AF. TJ's in my I haven't seen TJ in my chat forever. He wants the crossover between Pitch Black and Pitch Perfect. I don't know that Vin can sing. Does Vin have like, pipes? How's he doing on that? Another super chat. Toby's going hog wild out here. He says, I'm running my engine on Chevron, but I made a recent switch to mobile gasoline. Do you have a favorite type of gas? Oh my gosh. This chat is really slaying me. Well, let's give some gas.
Wow. A super chat. Thank you.
That guy, man. That guy. One more, though. One more. Thank you, Toby. Very nice of you, my man. Look at, he's even holding up the bills in the picture. He's even holding them all up. Perry says, oops, sorry, I missed it. Jumped again. Perry says, I just watched it, Carlito. I got the 4K and it looked amazing. Yeah. Talk about a movie that, and I have trouble saying it, slaps. Absolutely, that movie slaps. He can't sing, but that does not stop him from releasing music. So good. You guys are hilarious. The Grand Tour with Jeff Daniels, if you like sci-fi. I think David Tui's underrated. I think he's a very talented guy. But obviously I got to meet him, so I, maybe that's tainting it. I seen Vin Diesel audition for Tony Montana, and it's hilarious. So let me finish these other franchises I was looking at here. Apparently, there's a bunch of Winnie the Pooh movies. There's a bunch of Puppet Master movies. We did talk Spider-Man. The Mummy. Hard to know, where a franchise begins and ends when you have obviously classic black and white mummy films, and then obviously Perry's favorite Brendan Fraser mummy films, and then Tom Cruise starts making mummy films. Are they one connected universe? Hard to know. A Pink Panther, there's 23 of those, but for me, those don't necessarily feel connected when Steve Martin takes over, right? Do we count that? I don't know. Dave Niven, right, started it. Peter Sellers, and then later. Lone Wolf and Cub. I've never watched any of those films. There's several of those. James Bond, obviously, it lists the 26 films there. It does mention the Toichi, I can't pronounce it, which I've never seen. Longest running action franchise with total of 29 movies from 1962 to 2010. There you go. Impressive for sure. Let's see. Godzilla. How did we not mention Godzilla? Is that a connected universe? They've done a ton of reboots. That horrible Matthew Broderick film, I would hope doesn't count. So it's hard to know which of the 36 films counts and where they do or don't. Okay, but all of those characters apparently don't match the number one. The character, in this case, it's a character who has more films starring that character. Because there were a lot of, I think, black and white short films made in the early days of cinema with this character. And so many actors have played this character, including the most recent Best Supporting Actor winner at the Oscars. Let me see if I missed anybody. Let's see. It's the Super Chat franchise of vid clips. There you go. John Slaps. There it is. I said it. Charlie Chan has 46 movies. There you go. Scarface with Vin Diesel will be the movie needed. Everyone just needs it today. There you go. Universal has its own Hammer, their own Brendan Frames, the newest Cruise Mummy, all separate. There you go. The Oscar-winning Godzilla franchise. There you go. Hamburger. Starship Troopers is a short read, Carlito. It's probably in the audiobook form, and I always say that with the library card and the library app, you can listen to all areas of the collection today. There you go. So obviously Charlie Chaplin playing what did they call him? The Tramp. A lot of movies. But this character, the one who is number one on this, again, there's a lot of lists, has apparently 211 films to their credit with this character, spanning the early days of cinema, probably some black and white silence even, maybe, all the way through to Robert Downey Jr., who just won Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars this year, have played this character. And 62 Lefty Blues has got it. Sherlock Holmes himself, the great detective. So apparently, and this character is, I think, in the public domain now, has been utilized many, 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 many times. 211 times to be exact, according to this website. So I thought that was very interesting. It's not Mary-Kate and Ashley. It's not Mary-Kate and Ashley. But you could get I think you can stretch that character in ways where it's like, oh, these characters are doing their animated version. You know, what's that animated The Great Mouse Detective? Is that a Sherlock Holmes movie? I don't know. 211 seems like they stretched it a little bit, but I don't know. So yeah, those are just some of the franchises I found, and I think they stretched that term franchise. But I like that. That seems like the chat's in agreement with me that it should be a continuous, connected story, and I think it happens more often in horror films versus not necessarily the same actor. So maybe I need to relook at the Bond films and decide if I count Connery and Roger Moore and Dalton and go on from there. At what point does it end? Is it ending with Craig because he's basically starting as the origin of Bond, or does that chronologically go to the beginning and count? Like, it's interesting because they do obviously have a beginning, middle, and end to the Craig years, so it's tricky, right? I would not call it a franchise by a long shot. I don't either. Doctor Who, baby. Those aren't movies, Perry. Not movies. But I'm going to get out of here. That was it. That was my big discussion point, and I'm glad that you all got into it because the chat just was bumping through that whole thing. I appreciate all you guys. I don't know if I'll be jumping in. I know Carlito wanted to maybe do a live stream later, hangout. So I might jump into somebody's chats a little bit later. I'm going to be working in the garage, so I'll probably be listening while I'm working out there. Hercule Poirot has done a bunch, yeah, and then now they've got the 3 new films. I think there's even a 4th on the way that Kenneth Branagh's been doing. So I will be around. If y'all need me, you can hit me up on the Instagram as I clean and reorganize and make everything look better around here. I hope your weekends are going well. I hope you all are staying safe and having a good time, and we'll see you guys all again soon. Bye.